That's fine. Good morning, members and folks out watching on TV and those that have joined us live. You are tuning in to Education Full Instruction Committee, and we are glad to have you here. I apologize for being a few minutes late, but we'll just blame it on being our second time to meet. But anyway, we'll be better, more prompt. And I always prefer to we'll start with the calling of the roll. Clerks, please.
Representatives Sapicki, Dixie, Griffey, Harris, Haston, Hicks, Manis, McKenzie, Parkinson, Reagan, Rudder, Sparks, Warner, White, Madam Vice Chair Weaver, Madam Chairman Moody, Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. And that is Victoria, and her lovely assistant is Laura Goins. So we're glad to have you here today, Laura. And our Sergeant at Arms is Wayne Hawkins, and we thank you. And last week, our legal analyst was not able to be with us, but we will have with us Katie Roberts. So we thank you for being here with us today. I think everybody else we know. So thank you. Now, as usual, I would like to ask you if you would like to join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. All right, so today we have two bills on our calendar, and the first one up is House Bill 1516 by Chairman Sapicki. Motion on the bill. Thank you. You may proceed. You have a motion and a second, and I believe you do have an amendment.
We do. We'll be working off Amendment 007144.
Thank you. All right, proceed, please.
It does make the bill, Madam Chair, we want to put it on the bill and then we can talk about the amendment.
All right, let's do that. Without objection, we will add Amendment 007144 to the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, committee members. We sit here at a crossroads in Tennessee moving forward. We had the future of Tennessee at hand here with our children. The educational system in K through 12 that we have right now, based off statistical data, is probably not working to the best that it should for the outcomes of our students. Sometimes tough decisions have to be made at the higher levels, such as a superintendent, school board, principals, that we have to make tough decisions to make sure that our students have the best opportunity to succeed in their education for the future of Tennessee. The original form of this bill had some issues with it that some members had and some lobbyists had, and we tried to work through those the best we can to provide a framework. And all this bill does is provide a framework so that you get away from the arbitrariness of a district takeover, that there is a uniform process that has to take place so that every district across the state of Tennessee is treated equally and fairly when it comes to this type of recommendation. Now, Madam Chairman, this is a new amendment here, and with your permission, I'd like to kind of walk through it and then take questions there because it's a step-by-step process of what has to happen. I want to make sure all the members are familiar with this. That's okay.
That'll be fine, Chairman.
Thank you. If you'll follow along with the amendment, I'll go through section by section for you and try to explain what happens. In the first part of the bill, section 1, it talks about 49.1209 and 49.1210. Those are the matrices in which we look at districts at the state level, what scores they get, graduation rates, ACT scores, attendance records, truancy records, It even gets into financial responsibility, how they manage their finances. Are they getting audit findings? Just in a broad spectrum of how overall do our districts perform financially and educationally. Section 2 talks about, and this is where the meat of the bill starts to take place. It says every year the Commissioner of Education shall assess the LEA annually to determine whether the LEA is meeting the performance goals and measures set by the State Board of Education. So you got another board in here setting goals here in 491602. If at any time the commissioner feels, or deems, I should say, determines that an LEA is not meeting the performance goals or that an LEA is not meeting the responsibilities of one or more of its priority or focus schools, then the commissioner shall provide guidance and technical assistance to the LEA in developing and implementing a school turnaround plan for the best interest of our students. Or if the commissioner is not getting that cooperation for some reason, which I can't imagine, we'd be sitting here looking at anything past this. If the true intent of these directors and these school boards is for the best outcome of our students, if that would happen, and we go on to number 2 here, then the Commissioner of Education, based off the performance measures and the performance goals, for a minimum of 3 consecutive years. Now, we got to pause here for a second. This is where the bill gets kind of different. I can't look back for 3 years because we've granted exemptions, I think, since 2017, 3 times. So there's no way that the commissioner in this bill can look backwards. When this bill would be implemented, it would be the years moving forward of consecutive 3 years, provided that as members of the General Assembly, we don't grant a waiver, which would break the chain of the 3 years. We've had 3 since 2017 where we've waived those results. So the constitutionality of looking backwards would not be there because we can't. It's impossible because there's no data to support it. It would only be moving forward. 3 consecutive years, or that an LEA has not met its responsibilities. Now, the first part was met its responsibilities to 1 or more. Now, it's 1 or more for 3 consecutive years again. Once again, we can't go backwards. We have to move forward again. 3 consecutive years. So now we're looking at 22, 23, 23, 24, 24, 25, and then this bill could possibly come into effect. Possibly. If this number 2 happens, then the commissioner assumes all powers of governance for the LEA in order to ensure that the LEA students, once again, students, are provided a free public education that affords the students educational opportunities that are substantially equal to the educational opportunities provided by other LEAs, to bring everybody up. That would be the mission of this bill, to bring everybody up. Section B talks about the local match would still stay in effect. So the local responsibilities to the schools would still stay in effect while the Commissioner of Education works with that current superintendent and that current elected school board to get a turnaround plan. However, if we get to a point that the locals are just not willing to help turn this district around, not want to comply, fight tooth and nail to keep things the way they are, sacrificing our children's education, then the commissioner can take an appeal to the State Board of Education. 9-member board, made up of people all across Tennessee, appointed by the governor, confirmed by us, and that commissioner would have to wage that with that decision of removing a superintendent or appointing trustees to a school board to help the turnaround, have to wage that battle with the State Board of Education and get their permission to do that. Another safeguard so that we don't have a commissioner, no matter who it is. We've had Huffman, McQueen, Schwinn, and whoever's next, to prevent them from going rogue and going in and arbitrarily removing people that they may not like. Therefore, that State Board of Education has to give that commissioner the permission of basically the nuclear option of a district that is not looking out for the best interests of its students. If the state board approves the commissioner's recommendation, then the commissioner has the option to go in and fire for cause. Now, some of people have issues with cause there. Well, remember, these districts are subsets of the state board, the state. And so if the commissioner invokes that they're going to be the governance of here, the state is, then those parts of the contract that are written into that superintendent's contract come into place with the state. But every superintendent, and I've yet to heard of one, that couldn't be fired for cause on performance. And the reason why we've reached this nuclear option is for lack of performance over 3 consecutive years, right? That we don't even have right now because we have to have 3 consecutive years for the bill to even take place. If the superintendent is replaced by the commissioner and or the commissioner decides to appoint trustees, local from that LEA trustees, to help turn that district around, get it headed in the right direction, support the superintendent moving forward. The commissioner could elect to leave the superintendent in place and put trustees on the school board to help things get turned around. No school board member. We do not have the authority up here to remove a school board member. They are a duly elected person of their locals. But we do have the ability to appoint trustees like Governor Bredesen did in Metro Nashville. And on the last page, these trustees will serve in the same capacity as school board members with the same voting responsibilities. They will not be compensated. So these will be people that are volunteering to help their school district, to help their children turn the district around. If a superintendent is fired for cause, they cannot be rehired for 5 years to a superintendent's position. They can be an assistant superintendent. They can be the director of curriculum. They can be a director of many different things. They can be a principal. But if they're fired for cause, the consequence of that means they couldn't be a superintendent for 5 years. Now, how do we give this back? Well, once this happens, the Commissioner of Education will continue to monitor turnaround. Is the school system turning around and headed in the right direction? Are we getting better results in our TCAP scores? Are we getting better results in our ACT scores? Focusing on the children. That's a recurring theme here I keep saying is focusing on the children of the district. Are they getting what they need to be the best they can be? All of this, from the initiation of the commissioner invoking this, taking over the district, maximum of 5 years. And then the district has to go back to local control. If it's on the direct path in a quicker manner, it can be quicker than that. Metro Nashville took about 2 years. 2 years. And they were headed in an upward trajectory. There's a lot of people out there, and I admit it. A lot of people out there working hard against this bill, trying to convince you that this isn't the right way to go. Only thing I'm talking about, folks, are our kids. The question you have to ask yourself is, who are they talking about? Ever since I've gotten up here 3 years ago, and many of you have sat on this committee with me for 3 years, I have advocated for our teachers and our students, for their success. I hope and pray that we'll continue on with this bill and we'll move forward with this bill. And I know everybody sitting here, if this bill makes it to the House floor by the grace of God and by you, and it's approved, I know all these people will run to our friends on the Senate and try to kill this bill over in the Senate. So please think about that. This is about our kids. It's not about who's got the power. It's about our kids and the outcomes and the opportunities that they have for success in their life. Madam Chairman, I'm sorry for being lengthy. I'll answer questions.
Thank you, Chairman. And members, I know some of you are starting to say you want to be on the list, and we're keeping up with that. We do have a presenter, and she is here. So, Ms. Bugs, we would like to welcome you to come up and have a seat there if you're comfortable sitting. And I think you know the button to push. They're on your microphone at the base. Here comes someone you know well. And and just as a reminder, we ask you if you can keep it into 3 minutes, and we please reintroduce yourself with your title and all where you serve, and we thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Good morning, everyone. My name is Christian Buggs. I am a Tennessee Public Schools parent to one of the youngest students here, a pre-K student named Christopher. I am a former Tennessee Public Schools teacher in both a charter and zone school. I am honored to serve as board chair for Metro Nashville Public Schools. So thank you all so much for the opportunity to speak with you all. I first want to thank you for serving in this capacity. I know it is a tough one, especially in the times we're in now. I also want to thank you all for visiting our public school system just recently. Though we are home to the highest performing school in the entire state and a number of other optional schools with like charters and magnets, we appreciate you visiting 3 of our zone schools, 2 of which have consistently been reward schools and 2 of which have successfully both rolled off and remained off of the priority list. So when I think about the time we spent together, I want to both offer context around our school district and ask questions about how this bill will support an increase in student outcomes across our state, or at least across our city. I regularly speak with school board chairs across the other 144 districts, and we all agree we could use increased collaboration and support from state entities. In particular, though, we have questions around the goal of state takeover, i.e. this bill. Because this bill, as it reads, looks to allow the state to take over districts that underperform. But not only is this language vague, it would set a precedent that could reach all corners of this state. Not only do other members of this committee represent districts that already have at least one priority school, opening your entire system to state takeover under this bill, but 7 out of 10 of you represent districts that will have a priority school if just 3 priority schools close across the state this year. My own public school education allowed me the opportunity to work for NASA as an astrophysicist before returning here to my hometown to become an educator, earning 2 degrees in education from Tennessee State and Vanderbilt, respectively. We all want to improve we all want to provide the best possible education to all 1 million of Tennessee students, but does this amendment set a precedent that is a best practice that would allow other students to experience what I had the opportunity to? Is the ASD, has it been successful in proving it? Does this bill allow for improvement? I once taught at a level 5 school that was taken over by this state and subsequently experienced years of level 1 status. Is this a strategy we want to get in the habit of subjecting our students to? I'm open for questions.
Thank you very much. And members of the committee, I've already messed up, so mark it down. I forgot to take us out of session to hear from our guest, but I'll catch up with it next time. Members, does anyone have a question for our guest? Yes, Chairman White.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. And just one question. What are the total number of schools in Metro Nashville?
159.
159. And you mentioned that Metro Nashville is home to some of the highest performing schools.
Yes.
What percentage of those would be considered highest performing?
We have a number of reward schools. We have a number of schools that have seen a level 5 in growth consistently. We have a number of schools that have been reward schools for 5 to 10 years. It depends on what you label as high performing. And I also want to offer this context. 30% of students in Nashville come into first grade already 1 grade level behind. And when you look at socioeconomically disadvantaged students who are differently abled, students who are labeled minority, that looks like more like 75% of students coming into first grade already a grade level behind. So at my son's school, the school that serves all 5 homeless shelters in Nashville, we see an incredible amount of growth in their first 4 years of education, but we don't see as much proficiency. That's still a high performing school though, because we have students that are gaining 2 years of ELA or literacy proficiency in 1 year.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I don't disagree with anything you say. I think that's our challenge. You got the high performing, as I visit a lot of schools, and the kids who kind of get it, they're moving on, but that other 80%, say 20% are moving, but the other 80%, and that's the challenge that we have as a state. I'm not talking about just Metro Nashville, but I'm talking
Certainly.
about, all over the state. So that's why this conversation is being taken place. And, I understand what you're saying, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Representative Dixie, you're next.
It's more of like a request, and it's for you. After the last presenter, and after all the questions, could we ask legal to just, while we're out of session, to explain currently what the law is so we can have a better understanding?
Sure.
Right.
Write it down. Chairman Reagan, did I see your hand?
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady, and thank you for being here to testify. Also, we appreciate your background and your impact on education. All of us on this committee have that near and dear to our hearts for our state. The question straightforwardly, though, coming most recently out of the business world, I was a consultant to businesses, and when I walked into the first business I ever went into, the impact on the bottom line was the first thing they mentioned. It doesn't matter what they do, it matters what the impact of the bottom line is. Our state's bottom line has been improving for the last 10 years. We've moved from 49th in the nation to 35th, but then we stagnated. And of course, the most recent COVID infection problem with online learning has made it worse. But the bottom line is Tennessee can be, and in my estimate, should be in the top 10. What we are doing now is not getting us there. The bottom line is not improving. Now, to your schools that you're going to, this is not an indictment. We have high-performing schools all over the state. I have one of the highest performing in my district. So this is not a criticism of those that are doing what they're supposed to. However, those that are underperforming, which is what this bill is aimed at, must have something to help them correct their performance. Because the bottom line, that is, our students, our children are not being served well. We, the taxpayers, give our school districts money, and we expect a product in return. That product is a good citizen graduate who can contribute to our economy. And that's completely apart from what the students should be getting. We have an obligation to the students as well. The issue before us is we have schools in our state, and dare I say even school districts, that are not meeting that challenge. So from your perspective, you're arguing against corrective action on the basis that your school doesn't need it or your district doesn't need it. But what about the rest of the state? Your answer, please.
Great question, and thank you for that. I would offer you different context. I'm a scientist by nature, right? And so when I think about state takeover having already been an option that's been in use across the state for 10 years, and not seeing an increase in scores across the state. ASD schools are struggling because teaching in public schools is hard. We need resources, we need professional development, we need to be able to recruit teachers. My argument is not that we don't need to do something different, it's that this something different is not the right course of action, that it would put our students further behind. And that's just not in our district, that's across the state. Again, when you look at the priority list, you see a number of achievement school districts, schools that are still in that priority list and have struggled to move from a level 1 to even a level 2, let alone 3, 4, or 5. And so again, I agree that we need to be shifting and doing something differently, but this state takeover has not proven itself to be that thing.
Thank you.
Chairman. Right. Seeing no one else on the list, again, thank you so much for all you're doing
Thank you, Representative
and for
Moody.
taking the time to be here with us. We really
Certainly.
do appreciate hearing from you
Thank
and
you
the
all.
work you're doing.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you. While we're out of session, we'll go to legal to take care of what Representative Dixie's request.
Thank you. Katie Robertson with the Office of Legal Services. If I understand your question correctly, you're wondering about how the performance goals and measures are set currently and how you are identified as a priority school. So the State Board of Education, in consultation with the Commissioner of Education, establishes performance goals and measures for schools. And that is based on student achievement, student growth, and other appropriate indicators of performance. And then priority schools are based upon that, and it includes the bottom 5% of schools in performance, all public high schools failing to graduate 1/3 or more of their students, and schools with chronically low performing subgroups that have not improved after receiving additional targeted support pursuant to applicable laws and rules.
Thank you. Yes, please.
It's all public high schools failing to graduate 1/3 or more of their students.
Yes, Representative Griffey. Okay, Dixie.
I mean, we have the same ideas and thoughts, so I could see how. I see
That's
how
what,
that
that's what it
happens,
is. That's
you
what it
know.
is.
Well, I always tell him he's the smartest attorney that's up here, so that's a compliment. You know,
Thank
and all
you.
that. Well, I guess my question is, what state takeover abilities does the state already have? Is that clear as mud?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Katie Robertson, Legal Services. The commissioner may exercise control on certain portions of through the ASD. This is a little bit different than what is established for the ASD.
Okay, you're saying this bill is different than what's, okay, I just wanted to be clear. Okay.
All right, thank you. Anyone else have anything for legal while I'm sorry. Yes, Representative Griffey.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is for legal. It was brought to my attention that there may have been some concern that the way the bill's written, it could interfere with the contracts provision of the Tennessee Constitution, but I've also gotten other information that it doesn't, because our school districts are actually subdivisions of the state. So, and there may be Attorney General that may have opined on this or not. I don't know if legal has any information on that.
Katie.
Could you clarify on what contracts?
It's my understanding that the bill as written would say that after, I think it's 3 consecutive years of underperformance, that the commissioner could come in and the contract with the school director of schools with that local school boards would be terminated. And there's a provision, of course, in the Tennessee Constitution that says the state can't interfere with contracts. But I've also been there's been some indication that because the school boards are political subdivisions of the state, that the Constitution provision wouldn't apply, because it's actually, the state is contracting with itself, with the school director of schools. So I'm just trying to get some clarification and might resolve an issue that was brought to my attention.
So the Amendment 7144 states that the commissioner may recommend that the LEA's director of school be removed for cause and replaced. And in statute currently, the directors of schools can be removed for cause or replaced.
Okay. So if we've already, Scott,
Yeah. Yes.
so if we've already got a provision in statute that says it can be removed for cause or replaced, this isn't adding to or taking anything away. It's really just another basis for cause of removal. Okay, thank you. Thank you, legal. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Manis.
Thank you. It's actually the Tennessee Constitution, Article 1, Section 20, and I just want to clarify this. It says that no law impairing the obligations of contracts shall be made. The elected school board of education has a contract then with the director of schools. And can the commissioner remove that director when the commissioner is not a party to that contract? I think we need clarification on that, and it is Article 1, Section 20.
She's going to get back with you. Thank you. Yes, Chairman Reagan.
Again, a question for legal. I believe that this was done under Governor Bredesen's administration. Therefore, the precedent has been set, so this question has probably already been addressed. Is that correct?
Legal. She's going to look. Yes, we are still out of session. Yes.
I just want to make sure, I keep hearing the reference to Governor Bredesen, but could we have an example of that? Because I haven't been able to confirm that, where that process took place in Governor Bredesen's administration.
All right. You're taking good notes, right? Aren't you? Your list is growing. Yes, Chairman Sapicki.
Representative Manis, her name was Connie Smith, appointed by Governor Bredesen to seize the control over Metro Nashville.
Okay, thank you. I'll look at that.
I have her phone number. I can give it to you.
That's not really necessary.
Oh, dear. All right. We're good. All right. Representative Dixie.
Not that I don't trust the representative over there, but I would definitely like confirmation that happened, because I lived in Nashville pretty much all my life, and I've never even heard the name Connie Smith. So I would definitely like some confirmation on that and documentation.
Representative Griffey, I saw him first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess this is another one for legal. I guess the bill could always be tweaked that says any director of schools that fails to meet performance standards for 3 years in a row is automatically unqualified to continue in that role or something. And therefore, we wouldn't be interfering with a prior contract. It would just be a provision of all contracts going forward. And therefore, there would be no Tennessee constitutional interference with contracts provisions.
Could you restate that, please?
So if the bill was tweaked that says to be a director of schools, you cannot have been an existing director of schools for 3 years with failing performance. You would therefore no longer be qualified to be a director of schools in Tennessee. That would be a prospective provision of law if we enacted it. And then those teachers from this point forward that failed to have a performing school 3 years in a row, the school district directors, for 3 years in a row, they would then become unqualified to continue on in their position and could be removed by the Commissioner of Education. Does that make sense?
Katie Robertson, Legal Services. Yeah, I would like to look into that further to state on record if that would be a possibility.
Thank you, legal. All right. Representative McKenzie, was your question for legal while we're out of session?
Yes.
Okay, you're next then.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my question is a bit of a shift, but it goes to the amendment. I just want to understand, because I heard what the what the presenter said, but what I'm reading here is, and this is on the A2, it's at the fourth paragraph. It says the commissioner may assume all governance for an LEA beginning in the 2022-2023 school year, and then says more about has 5 years to improve or relinquish. But what I heard was that, because of all these hold harmless things, that this will not start, that the data would not start until pretty much after passes of this. That's not what I'm reading here. So could you give me a definitive statement as when the commissioner, per this bill as amended, be able to take over an LEA?
Thank you. We're on a little pause. Thank you.
And I don't mind to restate that.
Okay.
I see they're
Yes.
deliberating.
Thank
No
you.
hurry.
Thank you. Were you able to hear Representative McKenzie's question? Do you mind, Representative?
I definitely don't mind. So my question is on this bill as amended. The presenter talked about the pauses in terms of us having to hold harmless things dating back to 2017. However, when I read this, and I'll read it verbatim, it says the commissioner may assume all governance for an LEA beginning in the 2022-2023 school year. And then it says more about not having powers. So I just want to understand from a legalistic standpoint, I know what I heard, but if this bill is to pass, when can a commissioner take over a school system?
3 consecutive years.
All right, legal.
Thanks.
Katie Robertson, Legal Services. The 2017-2018 school year, the assessments were not used to identify as a priority school. And then also in the 2019-2020 school year. In the 2020-21 school year, it was if 80% of the enrolled students took the TCAP, then they would not be used to identify as a priority school. So as the law stands currently, then it would be moving forward. This school year, they could identify as a priority school.
Well, but
Yes, yes, Representative.
thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. But this says here that they can do it starting in the fall. And I guess my question is that a true statement? Can the commissioner assume governance beginning in the fall? If not, shouldn't this statement be removed?
No.
All right, legal. Take your time.
Madam Chairman, I can answer that question.
I'm asking legal.
Representative McKenzie, legal said she thought it'd be good for us to ask the sponsor
Okay.
that question. So if you don't mind, Representative Sapiki. Lord,
Yeah.
here we go. We're back in session. Representative Sapiki. Thank y'all.
So if I understand the correct question is, there is an implementation date in the bill. 22-23, I believe that's what it says. Is that correct, Representative McKenzie? 22-23?
And could you define implementation?
Yeah.
This is a takeover date.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. So the implementation, sir, is a trigger. Every bill we write here has a trigger date in it of when everything that follows starts to happen. But if you get into section 2, sir, of section 2A2, that's where it talks in. That's when, if the commissioner is going to take over a governance, right? Well, if you look in there, it's got 3 consecutive years of data. Legal has just told you that that data can't be backwards because there's no 3 consecutive years. So now moving forward, implementation of this bill would start in the 22-23 school year. But because we can't look backwards because there is no way to link 3 consecutive years as per laid out in section 2 of the bill, your question would be moot because it would have to be 3 consecutive years in the future. Because there's no way to go 3 consecutive years in the past because they don't exist from this date backward 3 years. Hope that answered the question.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I say I disagree in terms of this says may assume all. There's nothing on the other side of all, in my opinion, that this is a takeover at this point. But then could I also ask you, I think I heard legal say that schools that did not meet the 80% threshold would have their numbers taken into the consideration, thereby giving a pathway to last year plus 2 previous years. So for those schools that did not in last school year meet that 80%, isn't it possible for the commissioner to take those schools over the summer and starting with 22-23?
Yes, Chairman Sapiki.
Once again, in the bill, sir. Now you're on number 1, okay? So if you're in the bill, if you'll read the bill with me, A1 states that the first stop here is just technical support and assistance. That's it. There's no takeover language there, sir. That's in the bill. It's in the language. And it's, for one more time, it's 2, Section 2, A1. It just says, sir, it clearly says, provide guidance and technical assistance. That's it. To the superintendent and the school board of that district. Section 2, I think you're referring to, lays out that you have to have historical data there to implement where the director comes in and set to assume control. I wish this. I'm not sure, but I think in the last testing year, all of our LEAs met the 80% threshold. I think all of our schools met the 80% threshold. Like I said, moving forward, we'd have to have 3 years of statistical data now. Provided that, not being a fortune teller, we don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 years. Be able to implement it, and this General Assembly forgive everybody's test scores and hold harmless for another year, which would then again, 2 years from now, break the chain again. There were many safeguards put in here. All of these things you're talking about, Representative, is about the safeguards from the original bill that was brought to my attention that had some pitfalls in it. Too easy for a commissioner to assume control of a district. And so we put steps and benchmarks and hurdles. Once again, I keep coming back to the kids here. It seems like we keep defending the superintendents, we keep defending the system instead of defending our students. Now, you're entitled to that. I appreciate that. And as the presenter of this bill, I'm going to try to answer everybody's question here to the best of my ability. And it's just the language, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll let you do one more.
Yeah,
And we
well,
got
so-
others on the list.
So I guess that, this question was to legal. I had other questions. I don't know if you want me to answer them now, or you can come back to me in whatever line I'm in.
We've got a few more. If you don't mind, we'll move in. If you don't get them answered through that, then let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, Representative Dixie.
Thank you. It's like, where do we start? You made a couple statements when you were presenting the bill that, you insinuated, no, you didn't insinuate. You said that some LEAs aren't doing everything in their power to make Tennessee schools the best in the nation. And I think that most superintendents would probably take offense to that. And who would fight against the improvement for their students? And I had a couple questions. Is one, before we start, I did go look up Connie Smith. So Connie Smith, she head up the State Education Accountability Office. And this comes from an interview that she had with WPLN News. And one of the questions was, what's a state takeover? And she answered that question. And she asked some other questions. But this was one of her statements. She said, I want to work with our school director to look at the audit. So that tells me that she did not take over the schools. They worked with each other to move forward from that. So I just want to make sure that that's understood from that. Second thing is, and you may can answer this, is in this bill, does it say that what's the benchmark for the state, for the commissioner to take over? Is it one school? Is it on a sliding scale? What is it? I'm a little unclear.
Chairman Sapicki.
So if I understand your question right, it was, what is for a focus school or what is the number of schools?
Yeah, like according to this bill,
Yeah.
What would be the trigger for the state to take over?
For the state to take over? Are you talking for the commissioner of governance
Yes.
or directors and everybody else?
For this bill to kick in,
Okay,
what is it? What is the benchmark that a LEA would have to meet or not meet in order to?
well,
for
those
them
will be
to-
laid out in 49-1209 and 49-1210 as put forth by the State Board of Education of what they've worked with the department. We've served on here together. It's ACT scores, test scores,
No, I'm sorry. I think it,
Yeah, maybe I'm asking the wrong question.
yeah, I think the way that maybe I read it incorrectly, but I was reading that in this, that a one school could trigger a state takeover on a priority list could trigger that. Is that true?
No, not really. So it is, if you read once again with me, section 2,
Mhm.
okay? So it says, the LEA has not, let me back up. This is after the technical assistance and working with the current people are not working, then the commissioner can, if the LEA has not met the performance goals and measures for now it's a minimum of 3 years. On top of one or more of its priority or focus schools, another, on top of that, a 3-year benchmark too. So not only do you have to not meet the performance goals and measures for 3 years, now you have to have a priority school or plural schools that have now have their needs not met for 3 years. So there's 2 hurdles there that have been inserted into there.
Chairman Dixie.
Just two
May-
questions, 2 more questions. One is, does the commissioner support this bill?
Oh, sorry.
Chairman.
I don't speak for the commissioner.
So you haven't collaborated in
I
any
don't
way?
speak for the commissioner like I don't speak for the governor.
All right, I'll take that as a no. The other thing, it seems like this bill is creating basically a statewide ASD. And we've talked about
Mhm.
ASDs, you know how I feel about them. And I just feel like we've had enough historical information on ASDs of the non-performance of making to basically do the job that they were set out to do. So this is basically going to put more schools in this ASD, in a statewide ASD. Is that a true statement?
Chairman.
No, that's completely false. The ASD is a targeted school. And you and I have had numerous conversations about this, about our consternation with the Achievement School District. And I think, getting off on a little bit of a small tangent here, I think we need to look at that seriously, about the performance of that. What this looks at is as a district-wide, and that's why you bring in the performance data. You can have one bad school. We all have a school that is just not performing where it should. But to use just that one school to trigger the whole thing, that's not fair. And that's why you got to have the 3 years of data there. After the commissioner has provided technical assistance and support to that district to try to turn the district around. And if that doesn't work, then the next step. But we keep getting into, when do we say enough for the kids and help the kids out here? I don't believe our kids are the problem. I think we got great kids in Tennessee. I think our teachers are doing the toughest job they can right now in one of the worst environments for teaching ever created. But there reaches a point in time when we got to hold management accountable for these kids. Superintendents, right? And I got superintendents that I talk to all the time, and boy, they are faced with tough things. But the job is getting our kids educated. The job is getting our kids educated. If we don't affect the change we need with these districts, well, you know what? We better start building more prisons. Drug addiction, alcoholism, teen pregnancy, gang violence, on and on and on. Enough, please. These are our children, folks. And even what we do here, guys, ladies and gentlemen, whatever we do here, God willing, it moves forward. It's still got to go through the Senate. And hopefully we can argue over there.
Can I let you do one more, and then we
Okay.
got
Okay.
more on the list. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your indulgence, Chair
Thank you.
Lady Moody.
Thank
You know you're my favorite Chair Lady. But I just wanted to just make sure that we're clear here. I think everyone on this committee understands that this is about the students. And we want to make sure the students have the best educational experience that they could possibly have. But I think that sometimes we impose our will on the school system without getting all the stakeholders at the table and talking to you. That's why it was important for me to ask you, how did the commissioner feel about this? I don't know, how do our school boards association, the superintendent associations feel about this? I think it's important that we sit down at a table. If we're going to do something with this bill that is drastic as this is, that we definitely have to have all stakeholders on the same page when we do this. And I just want to make sure that we look at this, because this, like you said earlier, this is the nuclear option. And we want to make sure that before we push that button, that it's the absolutely last resort that we have. So let's just be crystal clear and let's talk it out and let's not rush through this. And if we need more time to feather this out, let's take the time to do it. But let's look at all options and let's get some more people to the table to talk about this, and let's get some more opinions on this. And but thank you for your time, and I appreciate your indulgence in answering my questions.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Chairman Sapicki.
I know Katie's sitting there, so I'm trying to do this right. So 491601, innovation zones established allows schools commissioner, the school superintendent, to appoint staff and leadership at schools, allows for maximum autonomy over financial programs and staffing. Any director can be terminated for cause. Any director in the state of Tennessee can be terminated for cause. This bill has been going on since last year. The amendments to the bill haven't changed the nature of the bill. All it's done is put more preventative measures in place that makes the hurdles even more difficult for the Commissioner of Education to invoke the nuclear option. And that's what it is. Let's get one thing straight. This is the nuclear option. But how many years are we going to sit here and get statistical data on districts for a decade that their schools are failing, that their performance is poor, that these students that they're graduating have zero chance? I've been to 26 districts across the state and talked to numerous people about this. And everybody's on board. I think we are headed in the right direction. I really think we're headed in the right direction. I went blank. Joris Ray. I'm hearing some really great things out of Memphis right now. Really great things. And that's great for the students of Memphis. That's good. That's good. This is just another tool. But what it does is it prevents the arbitrariness. It creates a process that has to be followed so that everybody's treated the exact same across the state. Everybody knows the playing field. And to Representative's point, maybe with the lack of recording over the last few years, this is going to put everybody saying, this is where we're headed. Let's all get on board, because hopefully we'll collect data for the next 3 years and we'll see this upward trend. And every year, the bottom five schools, the commissioner, number one, will give technical assistance and support to help them get out of the bottom 5. And maybe we'll keep making the bottom 5 percentage higher and higher and higher in our testing, to where we're leading the nation in education, and our bottom 5 is leading the nation in education and statistics. Everybody's fighting because they're so close. So, Madam Chairman, I'm sorry for droning on there a little bit.
No, that's fine. Members, we do still have people on the list. We've got a little over 30 minutes. So what I'd like to do, and maybe it will clear up some of the questions, our legal is ready to give the answer on some of those previous questions about contracts. So with your indulgence, I'll take us out of session and let legal explain what she learned.
Katie Robertson, Legal Services. So in the plain language of the amendment, it states that the commissioner may recommend to the state board that the LEA's director of schools may be removed for cause and replaced. And then it's up to the state board to approve that for the commissioner's recommendation. So it would be fact dependent upon what's in the contract currently and how the State Board of Education applies this to their practices.
Thank you for that. Everybody good? All right. We'll go back in session. Thank you. All right. Next on the list is Chairman White.
Thank you, Chair Lady Moody, and thank you, members and Representative Sapicki, Chairman Sapicki. Here's my comment that I would like to start out on. We went immediately in discussing this bill to everyone's fear of should the state remove a director of schools? And our conversation went down into the legal language, and we got bogged down in that. Now, I'm with Representative Sapicki in, okay, committee, there's not a person in this room and on this committee who doesn't know that we can do a better job. And that is our job to find the answer. And that's what we're looking for. I was reading the other day, because there's so much going on. Our world is changing in front of our eyes. It has ever since I've been in the world. Every 20 years it changes. But in 15 years, the 80,000 fifth graders sitting in our Tennessee schools will be trying to get jobs that don't exist right now. Artificial intelligence, biogenetics, the digital internet of all things is changing the world, and we've got to find a way that those students come out of K through 12, go into CTE or 4-year or community college or TCAD prepared, and we know they're not the quantity that we need. There are the fortunate few that will, and we're fighting for the very least of these on these bills. So, Chairman Sapicki, my question is, ever since I've been up here, of course, we formed the ASD, the priority schools, where if the state schools weren't performing in that district, we would take them over and put them in the ASD. Now, I've always been a supporter of that, but I am also willing to admit it's been a challenge. And as my friend in front of me right here from Shelby County fuss at me all the time, but that's how we got the innovation schools, because of the ASD schools, in my opinion. But we have been challenged as a state. So my question, as we put this out for the 146, 147 districts, how do and our guest speaker, and I hope I don't misquote her, but she said that she understood the need for improvement, corrective action, but this bill was not the answer. So my question is, we discuss this bill, regardless of the legalese and all that stuff before us, how do we see this bill is helpful other than what we've done in the past, which doesn't seem to guide us where we want to go?
Chairman Sapicki.
And I'll be brief, and I know you appreciate that. When the Commissioner of Education identifies a school, a district, I shouldn't say school, identifies a school system, I think the intention is in the bill that we recognize that that system's struggling, and we want to get help for those students. That's why in the bill, the technical assistance and guidance is vague, because that allows the commissioner to have all options on the table to help that district. But that dialogue between the state and that district must be honest and sincere. Not that they're scared of the commissioner coming in and start talking, is that the commissioner brings with it quite possibly billions of dollars of opportunity for that district to help. Governor Lee is laying out a very bold plan. We're all waiting to see that language. But the Commissioner of Education brings the full force of the General Assembly and the state of Tennessee and the governor's office behind her or him to help this district for those children's sake. I would hope and pray that district or number 2, we never get there. That's the goal. We should never get to number 2. And I believe we're all, and Chairman, I agree with you. I think we all know that we have got to fix this for our kids. And some of the problems are created by us. They are. Some of the problems are created by us. But there has to be accountability somewhere when the rubber meets the road, when we're graduating kids in high school that aren't on grade level in reading, writing, and math, that are scoring very, very poorly on an ACT, that are struggling. Our graduation rate in our community colleges is 51% now. Tennessee Promise, 51%. Our employers in the private sector are telling us, begging us to fix this system because the students we're turning out are not ready for the real work, the real world. Remedial coursework in our colleges and universities is an all-time high. On and on and on. If we all work together, focusing on the same goal of our children, we should never get to number 2. Because we have the means up here to help wherever we have to help and provide the support that they need to be successful. I appreciate the tours that I've been given. I got to see fantastic CTE coursework. I got to see fantastic AP coursework. Those kids are going to be fine in life. I'm worried about the other kids I didn't get to see. That's all. And helping, I really wish, and I'll get off my soapbox here in a second. You know what I really wish we could do is park a bunch of teachers up here in front of us in committee and just have them tell us how to fix the system. That's it. And fix the system, be done with it. And then we can sit around and watch this test scores take off. That's what we got. That's the real challenge, Chairman, is we got to get that connection back to this body and those teachers in the classroom to tell us how to solve the problems. And I know this body, if they get those teachers up here, we'll solve those problems real quick. Hope that answers your question, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Parkinson, you are next.
Thank you. Chairman Sapicki, I understand your passion. And I think, especially everyone on this committee, I believe that everyone on this committee understands, where our struggle is. And I'm not trying to tell you how to market your presentation or how you do your presentation, but many of us have been on this committee long before you got here, and we've been understanding where the struggle is. So the whole passionate plea about, the children, we wouldn't be on this committee if we didn't all feel the same way about the children. So, to keep beating that drum, everyone in this audience understands that we have children that struggle. And, and so I want us to look at, if we can, your legislation, not from a marketing standpoint, to get everyone to vote for it because of emotion, but technically, is this sound legislation, that would actually be beneficial to our education system and to our students. You mentioned that everyone is on board. Who is everyone? Because not one single person that I've talked to said they support this or agree with this.
Chairman Sapicki.
I think, Representative, what I meant was we're all on board for helping our educational system the best way we can.
Okay. Thank you. Because you mentioned Dr. Joyce Ray right behind that in that same sentence almost. And, is he supportive of the legislation?
Representative Sapicki.
No, what I was trying to reference there was I think it's Dr. Ray.
Right.
Has started in a direction that's been very positive now for Shelby County School District in relationship to dealing more with the state and getting some help from the state, where in the bill, like Section 1, that's how I was trying to reference there, that collaboration between the state and the local district now looks like Shelby County starting to become a poster child, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Of that type of collaboration.
Understood. And so I was looking at, or listening to you rather, in regards to technical assistance, and I was trying to capture this as fast as I could, so I'm not saying anything incorrect that you might have said, but technical assistance will be given by the commissioner of the state. And so my question is with this is, and then after that, just so I'm clear, and then after that technical assistance is given, if that district is still not performing, then you push the nuclear button and the superintendent disappears and a new one is put in place or other people are brought in, right? Am I correct?
Chairman Sapicki.
No,
No? Okay.
No. elaborate.
Yeah, please.
Okay,
Please, sir.
so in the bill, section 2
Mhm.
starts where if it's not met the performance goals, and then you've got the 3 years I've talked about before of statistical data, then the commissioner can assume governance. Nobody's replaced yet.
Okay.
School board stays right where they are, superintendent stays right where they are, and then the commissioner of education provides technical assistance, help, oversight to whatever they need, keeping them in control, but now saying, okay, we got to get this done. And so nobody's replaced nothing yet.
Mm-hmm. And when does the replacement kick in?
So then if the commissioner feels like I keep saying she, I'm sorry. If the commissioner feels like they're not getting the support from the district, then the commissioner has to take a recommendation of replacement to the State Board of Education. And before that replacement takes place, that State Board of Education has to weigh in on all of the guidelines of performance data, priority schools, 3 years. And then the State Board of Education has to say yay or nay. Yes, we agree with you. We've reached the point here, or no, keep going the way you are.
Thank you for that explanation. And so my question to you is, if the commissioner is I guess taking the reins of the district at that point, and she's offering the technical assistance and everything that she can do, and the system still doesn't perform, who's responsible?
It falls on the commissioner now. That's why they have to now I'm sorry, Madam Chairman. How about if I turn it on?
There you go.
If after that time, they're still not performing, then if the commissioner would go to the state board based off of the performance data, the commissioner would have to make the case to the State Board of Education of, this is the problem identified by this. So it'd have to be real hard data. That's why we took it out of the bill where the commissioner could make this decision. That's why we put it to the State Board of Education, which is confirmed by all of us. And it's supposed to be a true representation across the whole state of Tennessee of education experts. So those education experts would be weighing in on the commissioner's request, people who are versed in education, people that understand this whole education and policy. And yeah, that's where we get to.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Am I good still?
We do have a couple more people since we're running out of time.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I patiently listened to 1,000 questions.
Yes, we all
I
have.
just got a few more, if you don't mind.
Can I go and see if the others answer your question? And if we have time, come back to you. I promise. We got you on the list. I did it for the other members and they complied. Thank you. All right, next we have Representative Manis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make this one point real quick, and Connie Smith is going to be an icon before this is all over. But I want to make sure that we don't misunderstand that there was a precedent. My research shows me that there wasn't a precedent, and I think that's important. That is, there's not a precedent that's similar to the situation we're currently speaking of. So I will make that point. And I do think, we all, we wouldn't be here if we didn't care about kids. And we spend lots of time focusing on education. So it's obvious we care about kids. It's about the process, I think, that we're debating right now. And the process that I think, kind of just to summarize and bring this all, I'll try to be as brief as I possibly can. Some of us in this room and on the chamber on the House floor debated about the power of healthcare boards being, they're not elected, they're appointed. And the power, we debated their power last year. And now I think my concern is if you go back to TCA 49-1-611, it talks about removal or appointment of school board members. And there is a process, and the process is before the removal or appointment functions are exercised, the commissioner shall also appear before the Education Committee of the Senate and the Education Administration Committee of the House of Representatives for that purpose and present the reasons for the proposed actions. My biggest concern is we are taking away the voice of an elected official. I have the utmost respect and confidence in Commissioner Schwinn. It's not about that. But there should be a due process where it comes before an elected body and not left up to the commissioner in an appointed position or the state board in appointed positions. That is one of my biggest concerns. And Knox County does have concerns with this process. And I just want to make sure that I go on record saying I could never support doing something to this level and not listening to the voices of our constituents and hearing from elected officials. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Spicky.
Just to give a correction to the representative, there's nothing in the bill that removes a school board member. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, Representative Hicks, you are next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's so many factors, I believe, in these failing schools. A lot of those factors, I feel like, are totally out of a lot of people's hands, especially our hands. I came into this year very excited about education and the new funding formula that we're going to be working on. And I was blessed this summer, to be on a teachers advisory committee. And one of the things that we really, really spoke about and talked about was teachers doesn't feel like they have the opportunity to teach. And, speaking for the teachers, I think that's something that we really need to strive for. And I believe that, they agree that we need more counselors in our schools. We need more social workers in our schools. We need less, smaller class sizes. And until we really dig down into this education system this year and really get to the meat of the problem, we can throw all the money, we can throw all of the departments that we want to at it. I believe it's really not going to make much of a difference. And I just want to be on record saying that I'm going to stay positive about education at this time. I've decided to do that. And, I look forward to the future of Tennessee and the education system. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right. Representative Sparks.
Thank you, Chairman Spicky mentioned about building prisons. About building prisons, about education. Can you circle back, just mention if you can remember that?
Well, so we have got to fix this pipeline. Our prisons bursting at the seams. Our county jails are full. Drug addiction, alcoholism, teen pregnancy, you name it, it's skyrocketing out of control here. Drugs, opioids,
Yes.
meth, right? We all are pulling in the same direction, but there reaches a point in time when we got to be held accountable for what we're trying to do here. Hopefully that answers your question. We're up against the time here, so I do not want to roll.
Well, I appreciate you saying that because the reason I wanted that echoed is because I don't hear it discussed much, and I think we got to get to the root of the problems. I don't think I can support your legislation here as it's written right now. I'd like to hear from the commissioner herself, and someone mentioned Huffman earlier. When I was one of 3 other lawmakers that asked for him to resign years ago. Had a lot of money spent against my next election, big money. I'm still here. And I did it because 60-something school superintendents signed a letter of no confidence. Proverbs says there's wisdom in the multitude of counselors. I think the idea that you had about bringing teachers up, man, let's go for it. Because I want to hear from teachers. A lot of teachers are afraid to speak up. Here's what I'm hearing from teachers. They feel like they don't have support from the administration. That's what I'm hearing from teachers. Teachers are wanting to quit. And I'm like, man, why are you wanting to quit? I'm talking about teachers of the year, teachers that are good, solid teachers. What can we do to recruit and retain those teachers? I couldn't imagine being a teacher today. I couldn't imagine being on the school board today. Could you imagine being on the school board? Who wants to be on the school board? I wouldn't want to be on the school board right now. But what I want to say is let's let our locals decide. You know, we've made a lot of changes up here. Locals are a little upset. I voted for the partisan school board races. I'll stand by it. I supported the charter school last month or two. I'm the only one in my entire county supporting it. It's lonely. Politics is often lonely. But I think parents' choice, it's an option. It's an option. I think the discussion of all the issues we talked about, I appreciate Representative Hicks talking about these issues and meeting with teachers. And I want to hear from teachers. My cell phone's 615-525-3198. They're welcome to call me. I'm sure I'll get lit up with phone calls. But I worry about the future. Our prison budget's $1.3 billion. $1.3 billion. Sadly growing. We incarcerate more people than China. Think about that, Chairman Reagan. China. We incarcerate more people. What is it? Goes back to education. Goes back to that family unit. Goes back to a myriad of issues, the drugs, mental health, childhood trauma, social workers. Thank you for saying that. School counselors, nurses. How do we continue to fund this? I want to support the governor. That's a lot of money he's talking about. It's a lot of money. I want to make sure we get a good return on investment, just like Sapicki would want, a good return. I can't support your legislation right now as it's written, but I applaud your passion, man. I applaud it. We need more of it, but I love your idea about bringing teachers up. Let's do it, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you,
Just
Chairman.
Just a quick response
Yes,
there.
Chairman.
The representative who just spoke probably hit the nail on the head about this bill. Our teachers are afraid to come forward. Why? Who controls the teachers? Think about that one. Think about that. Who controls the teachers? Why are our teachers scared to come up here and talk to us? Answer that question for you right there. Off topic there, but that's a great comment. And y'all know it's true. And it's not the teachers are the problem. There you go.
Thank you. Next on the list is Chair Lady Weaver.
Question on the bill.
All right. We got four. All right. Members, all in favor of question being called, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. I hear ayes. The question will be called. I heard ayes. Y'all are loud. One, two, three, four. All right. You're raising your hands for roll call vote. All right. I wanted to be clear. Yes, yes, yes. All right. We have enough hands up.
It already passed.
Oh,
You already declared it.
oh, okay. Pardon me. That's what you wanted. I got you. All right. The posture we're in is we voted to have the question and we voted to have the roll call vote. We have enough hands to have the roll call vote on the bill.
I thought we could do a roll call vote on the question and cut off the debate. I thought we were gonna have a chance to say something else. Roll call was on the question.
You're right. Oh boy. Where are you going? Pardon me. Okay, after confusion and getting my mind straight, we will take a roll call on the bill.
Madam Chair, it's my understanding the chair, there was a motion for calling the question, and then a voice vote was taken on that, and the Madam Chair thought there were more yays for calling the question and voting on the bill than there were noes to continue debate. Thought there were enough hands to have a roll call vote on calling the question so that if we vote on that, we could continue a little more debate. So I was requesting a roll call vote on the question so that if we vote that down, we would continue with debate before actually voting on the bill.
So I thought I declared that the question failed by what I heard by voice. I mean, we passed that we are going to move on to vote on the bill by voice vote.
Yes, Madam Chair, but I thought there were enough hands raised that felt that there were more noes than yays on calling the question. And so I was requesting a roll call vote on the actual vote to call the question, because there may be more nays so that we could continue debate.
Okay, members, it's been requested that we vote on this today. So we're running out of time, and I, again, already ruled that the question prevailed. And so now we are ready to vote on the bill.
If you don't mind.
Quickly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to my colleague, in order to get that roll call vote, we have to ask for that before the vote. Now, the only way to change that is if Madam Chair decides she wants to, she'll allow it, or to challenge the chair. As much as I'm with you, because I did have some things that I wanted to point out about this bill, parliamentary wise, you have to ask for the roll call vote before that vote was taken.
Yeah.
Don't we need to hear what point of order?
Yes, Representative Griffey.
Madam Chair, and I certainly fully respect you and your rulings and so forth. It was my understanding that if there was a voice vote, but there were sufficient numbers, 3 or more hands, to challenge that voice vote on calling the question, that there would be a roll call vote on calling the question first. And that's why I raised my hand, because I wanted to continue to at least have another opportunity to say something about the bill before we took a vote. But I'll certainly defer to whatever the chair's ruling is.
At this point, I'm going to rule we need to take the vote.
Could I ask for a
On
roll
the
call
bill.
vote? Roll call vote.
We'll let you know. Okay, I see enough hands for a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll for us, please? And we are voting on, to be clear, House Bill 1516 as amended. All right, thank you.
Representatives Sapicki, Dixie,
No.
Griffey, Harris, Haston, Hicks, Manis,
No.
McKenzie,
No.
Moody. Parkinson,
That would be a double no.
Reagan, Rudder, Sparks, Warner, Weaver, White. Okay. Madam Chair, you have 6 yes, 9 no's, and 0 present not voting.
Right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. So bill fails. Excuse me. No, he had another bill after this. We were trying to get that straight. So, members, thank you, and we will meet again this time next week. Thank you. We're adjourned.